Okay. Hola. So I'm just gonna share the screen. We're gonna do the Spanish mini lesson. Today, one thing that I do quite often because it's a slightly difficult concept to grasp, which, let me see, am I sharing now? Which is the, let me see, which is preterite versus imperfect. It is difficult to grasp, to say the least. So let's have a look. I'm gonna do right. So just setting everything up. So perfect, well, not perfect versus imperfect. In this case is preterite versus imperfect, okay? So first we're gonna look at when to use the preterite, okay, when to use it. Then we obviously look at when to use the imperfect, but this is the key thing. We're gonna practice using both together because this is what's a little bit hard. So as you know, these are 15 minutes sessions, so we don't really go in depth in many things, just one concept at a time. And so this is what we're gonna do today. Let's jump straight in. Good. El pretérito. So I know there's lots of stuff. This is because I've written here, because this is because I share the notes afterwards. But the key concept, the actual key concept of what the preterite is about is it's a past tense. We refer to it as simple past as well. So we know it's a past tense, simple past. And we use it to talk about completed actions in the past. What does that even mean? It means something like yesterday I went to the cinema. Ayer fui al cine. Last year I went to Spain on holidays. Or last night I ate pizza for dinner. When you say that, you're referring to the past and you are saying something that you did and is finished. That's it. There's no more to it. Every time that you want to do something like that, you use this tense. Okay? So put in the chat, how do you see this? Like, is this clear, or is there any questions so far about this? Like, when do I use this? And if there's no questions, put one sentence that you can, but just using this tense. So in the chat, one sentence, it can be anything, but using pretérito. Let's go for it. Mine would be ayer, comí, pizza. That's like mine. And if we don't know the sentence, then maybe we need to think, okay, do I know the endings? Which would be a different thing, okay? So we're gonna look at those endings then, just in case those endings are a problem. So let's see how we form these tense. Bear with me. So okay, all we need to do is the 3 steps are, so it's always, let me write them here for you. So you've got like step 1, hace 2 días me dijo de naranja. Okay, that's a good sentence. That's perfect use of pretérito, perfect. That's exactly, because it's a one-off. I did this, which is I drank orange juice. That's correct. The ending is slightly inaccurate. So this is what we're saying now. So I'm very happy and glad that the use is correct. Okay, hace 2 días bebí, but we need is beber, is an, as you can see here now, ER, so it's an I with an accent rather than an E. Okay, so step 1, we take the infinitive. There you go, step 1, easy. Step 2, remove infinitive ending. In other words, AR or ER or IR. Step 3, add preterite ending. And so the ending actually is not that difficult. The ending is the 2 different sets. So we've got the E with an accent. So E hasta O. Amos hasteis aron. Okay? Whereas the ER and IR verbs share the same endings. And so that's pretty good because you don't need to learn 3 sets. You only need to learn 2 sets. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to process this a bit because it won't be new, but yeah. 2 sets, 3 steps. This is how we form the infinitive. Can you see, let me know in the chat, can you see why bebe is not bebe, but it's bebi? Because E with an accent, you're right, but it's only for AR verbs. Did you see that? Okay. Right. So we said that today is about understanding the difference between both past tenses. We've got pretérito, a one-off action that is completed in the past, but then we have imperfecto. That's a different one. So we need to understand the second one and then see them together. So let's go to imperfecto. There you go. Now, what is the main idea? The main idea, look, the main idea, so because as I said, there's loads of notes there, and yeah, it's good to have a thorough understanding, but the key idea is what you need now. It's the following. When we use the imperfect, it's the past, but, and this is what I would like first, it's repeated actions in the past. So what is the main difference? The other one was a one-off, just one activity. When it's one, it means it's not repeated. It's just one. It happened, done. I went to the cinema. But when I say, well, when I was little in my primary school, I used to go to the swimming pool every Saturday. If you notice, the nature of this tense is that it also refers to past tense, time, but it's repeated. I used to go, and that happened several times on Saturday. This is the key idea of the imperfect. Okay, we know the endings, we'll see that later, are ia or aba. And so it's for telling what people used to do or repeated actions in the past. Okay? So this is what it's telling you regarding both of the tenses. Now, you might be wondering, but hang on a minute, Natalia, but you skipped one. What about the descriptions in the past? Exactly. This is a bit harder to understand, but actually, we're going to make it easier for you. So this is what we're going to do. So when we say descriptions in the past, we need to know what is that referring to? What is that talking about? So look, is whenever, anytime, any time you are referring to, or you are explaining rather than referring, you are explaining I like it more. Well, describing, actually describing is the best. We're describing, and this is key, what things were like. In other words, this is, if you need to make a note on this. This is such a key thing. This is when students get these tense wrong. So, in other words, okay, let me change the color to maybe green. Not green, maybe red. Yeah. In other words, whenever you are saying what things were like, you use imperfect. You don't need to be worrying about, is this repeated? If you can say, oh, I'm actually saying what things were like, so you can use the imperfect. We're going to see that in practice now. So, oh, last year I went to India on holidays, and oh my God, the food was amazing. Well, the food, I went to India, that's a one-off. It was last year, I went once. The food was amazing. I'm explaining or describing what the food was like. It was amazing. Can you see how that's imperfect? So how do we say that in Spanish? Fui a la India y la comida, and then I don't use preterite anymore because now I'm going to describe food. Era increíble. Before I carry on, I need to see some interaction in the chat. Is this okay? Thumbs up if you're like, yes, that's very clear. I can see it clearly, or actually I haven't got a clue of what you're talking about, Natalia. Could you be clearer? Tell me in that chat. Tell me in the chat. Yeah. Good. That's very good. It is important to me because, yeah, okay. So that's the main idea. When you start doing that, you will see how things get a lot better. Because just apply what you know. And so this is because I'm giving you the note. So this is everything I just said now. So you use imperfect for descriptions, for repeated actions, and that's it. And you use preterite for one of event in the past. And this is a present tense. This is kind of a timeline. Right. So this is how we form it. Is the aba ia. So for these two is the same, and for that is aba ia. So that's it. We don't have enough time to do all of this, but as I said, I'll share this later. I'll put the link. So translate the sentences into English, write the letters. So what I need is now that you tell me in the chat, la pensión, okay, estaba en las afueras de la ciudad. So what I need is estaba. What is this? Is that a description in the past? Is it a repeated action in the past or used to phrase? What is estaba? This is describing what things were like or where things were or repeated or used to. So D-R-A-U-T. That's all you need to put. But look at the, it's an abaia. It can't be preterite. It's not single time. It's abaia. We already know it's imperfect. And it's telling me where this thing was. And that's also a description. So if I say, oh, this is where it was or what it was like, or that, yeah, exactly. So it is a description. What about the second time? It's the second one. Okay, what about that? Second one. Is it description in the past? RA4. But yeah, but what you need is not to, but I know it says translate, but I just need the D if it's a description in the past, RA if it's a repeated action in the past or used to. That's it. D, description. Is it a description? Is it describing what something was like, or is it telling you what you did repeatedly? What is cada sábado? Cada sábado. Yeah. So if you do something every single Saturday, are you not doing that repeatedly in the past? Exactly. Do you see it a bit better now? Yeah, exactly right. And last one is number 3. Tell me number 3. You just need D if you are describing something, RA if you are saying that something was done many times, or UT if you're saying something used to be. Exactly right. Exactly right. D. Well, brilliant. I will share the link in the group, so yeah, you can have access to this. Well done. And next Thursday is going to be listening. All right. So very well done. Adios. Okay. Adios. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we are going to start with the French mini lesson now. Okay. Let's have a look. Yeah. So can you hear me? Yeah. So this is now starting the French mini lesson, a bit late, but I was doing the Spanish. And today is about the perfect versus imperfect. Okay, a very important thing. So again, these are very short lessons, 15 minutes only, to explore a concept in more detail, but just one thing. And today I want to explore that idea of the perfect versus imperfect, because there's always a bit of a challenge for students. So first we want to focus on passé composé, that's the perfect tense. Then we're going to look at the imperfect, so independently, both of them. And finally, we're going to look at both of them, how we use them together, and practice a bit. This is just the key idea for today. Mini lesson. Let's jump straight in. Right. The important about le passé composé is to understand what it is. So we know it's a past tense. Okay? We know that. And so what does it say here? The idea is that it's something that, let me see, talking about mastery, there. It's something to talk about single events or like a one-off event or an action that happened in the past, okay? So if you're making notes, the key idea for passé composé is something like a one-off event I did in the past or someone did, okay? That's the key idea. A lot of students say to me, what does that even mean? What does it mean, a single, a one-off event completed in the past? What does that even mean? Single events or actions that happened in the past. Well, it means that something like, hier, je suis allé au cinéma. It means that I did that yesterday, and that was something I did, and that's it. It's not repeated. It's done, completed yesterday. That action is no longer happening. That's it. That's what it is. Something like that. Yesterday, I went to the cinema. That's it. This is the essence of passé composé. Of course, we need to know how to form it and all that, but it's not the purpose of today's mini lesson to look at how to form it and all that, other than just to know it a tiny little bit, because the purpose is to understand when to use this one and the imperfect together. But we can still have a look at it. So the perfect tense of French has two parts. The reason why we call it composé is because it is compound of two parts. So one part is the auxiliary verb, look at that. It's part number one, which is avoir, mostly, but sometimes être. And the other thing is the past participle. So that's the second part of the verb. And that's really like English, if you think. So look at the English example here. He has played. So the perfect tense in English also has an auxiliary verb, which is to have, and then this would be the English past participle, right? So this is the essence. But as I said, this is not the aim of today's lesson, but it's good to remember. J'ai mangé, j'ai écouté, j'ai parlé, j'ai whatever you want to say, je visité, j'ai voyagé. But then you have the one with être. Je suis allé, je suis monté, je suis descendu, etc. That's the main idea. Now, okay, let me just get rid of these drawings, and we're gonna keep moving on to now the other auxiliary. So we said auxiliary plus past participle. Avoir is most of the time, however, être is another auxiliary that we use. So the key idea would be, how do I know which one I use? Well, it's quite simple. We use être with only 16 verbs. So we usually remember them with the acronym Mrs. Van der Trump. So I'm not gonna show you all of them because again, it's not today's purpose, but I can tell you some of them. So sortir, monter, descendre, rester, retourner, some example of verbs that in the past will take être as their auxiliary verb. And there's things to know, but this is how to form it, not when to use it, okay? So these verbs, and there's 16 in total. If you notice, if you know the meaning, sortir is to go out, to go up, to go down, to stay, to return. There is some more movement, some relation with movement, right? So this is the essence of passé composé with être. But as I said, I need to be clear with this. It's not today's main objective. Today's main objective is to understand when I use passé composé, and I use it for a completed action in the past. How is this going so far? You want to put in the chat yes or any question? In the chat, you could just, if it's going all with the thumbs up, because we're going to move on to the imperfect now. So you can give me the thumbs up, or you can type in the chat, yeah, it's going well, or anything that you, or ask any question, of course. Okay, let me see. Okay, that's cool. And yeah, the idea, completed action in the past and how to form it, avoir ou être plus past participle. That's the main idea. But the main idea is also needed for imperfect. So imperfect is the other past tense. It's another past tense. And so what students think is, okay, so how do I know when to use one and when to use the other one? And this is where problems arise. This is where things get a bit challenging. So, well, let's focus on the main idea again, really. So the main idea for the imperfect is that we use it when we are talking about the past tense. Let me see what it says here. Yeah, when we were talking about things that were happening, like if someone was watching TV, when my mom arrived, I was watching TV. Well, that's going to be imperfect. Or describing what something was like. Those are two key things. But the other one, I don't know why it's not there. Actually, alade. The other way or the other time that we use imperfect is to talk about repeated actions in the past. Repeated actions in the past. Like I used to do something, or every day I went to the gym when I was little, something like that. As you can see, there is a massive difference between yesterday, I went to the cinema. That's a one-off. It happened happened yesterday. It's completed, it's done. Passé composé. When I was little, I used to go to the swimming pool go swimming every morning, every Saturday morning. That's a repeated action in the past. It happened many times. Imperfect. Can we see the difference? No, I couldn't hear you. No, I don't know why I couldn't, but I couldn't. But you can type anything in the chat. I'm reading it, okay? I couldn't hear you somehow. No. So can you tell me in the chat? Yeah, can you see the big difference? Yeah, good. So let's just do some practice then, because that was the main difference. I'm just going to point out one thing. The thing I want to point out is that where things get a tiny bit more complicated is in this case, describing what something was like. This is where it gets a bit harder, because that's not always very obvious. But it's something like, last year I went to France on holiday and the food was amazing and the weather was great. If you notice, and I'll say this in English for now, because we will need to understand the concept, and then we'll practice in French. So last year, I went to France. Can you see? This is a one-off. A one-off. Completed. It's done. A one-off event or action. Passé, composé. That's simple. Last year, I went to France. And then we continue. And the weather was fantastic. The weather was fantastic. I'm describing what the weather was like. Describing what the weather was like. So, imperfect. That's really it. That's really it. So this is harder because it's not like used to or repeated, but you're just saying what something was like, imperfect. Right, let's have a quick look at the endings. This is just a more graphic way. You can have a look. This is just a more graphic way of saying the same thing. But the important thing now, have a look at the endings. The endings, to form the imperfect tense, we take the new form of the present tense. This is because that would be avoiding irregularities. So, nous parlons. Okay? That's the new form. Nous parlons. Nous, parlons. That's the new form. But we don't want that. We need to remove ONS. So we end up with the stem, which is that. And then add the endings. So I've got je parle, and then the ending is AIS, AIS, so parler, parler, AIT, ion, qui est AIENT, parler. That is it. Great news. Is there is one set of endings for all three types of infinity. Shall we just do the practical layer or the practice about how to use both? Let's go for it. There you go. So you need to choose. That's the end of it. You need to choose. How do we do it? Look, you put number one, and then you don't need to type the whole thing, just the actual one in the chat, okay? So something like this. In the chat, you will put number one, and then you choose either this or this. And also number one, either this or this, because there's two things in number one. So do number one first, and we discuss. That's not a problem. I know, I deal with, I have to do the same, I know. So I understand that you are aware of the accents in the preterite. We need the E with an accent, but yeah, I get that. Okay, we're gonna, as I said, we do one and we discuss two and we discuss. So the first one, we're gonna discuss it. And so this is why, yeah, we're gonna discuss this. You chose j'ai regardé, the first one. Let me just, so what you're saying is, I was watching a film when the telephone rang. So if you were doing something, is that imperfect or passé composé? Try that again. Exactly right. And so is that the one you chose? So do you see, this is why the practice helps us massively. It's like, exactly right. No. I'm talking about the first one. You don't need to, each case will be, because remember that we're putting them together. So it doesn't mean that if you change one, you change the other. You need to look at each one in a specific situation. So you are saying, I was watching a film when, isn't what you, the most normal thing, this is like, oh, look, I tell you what, I was watching a film when the telephone rang. Isn't that what the most normal thing is? So the first one is a continuous action, repeated, like continuous. I was doing something. The second is a one-off. The telephone rang. Exactly right. Exactly. Do you see that now? So this is how we're gonna look at it. Do the same with number two. Quand il était petit, when he was little. Well, I already know, because the time phrase is telling me I'm gonna need one particular tense. Which one is that? Exactly right. It's gonna be imperfect because it's like, when I was little, I used to. Oh well, my mon père habitait. He used to live au bord de la mer. Toi. Again, yeah, exactly. He was living. It's more. Well, yeah, he was living. You're right, but still imperfect. No, you're absolutely right. Toi. Ce matin. The time phrases give you massive clues. Ce matin. Exactly. Because it was this morning, specific. You were not seeing your cousin in town this morning. You saw her. This morning I saw my cousin. Well done. 4. Avant. Again, the phrase is telling you avant, before, I liked or I used to like. Exactly. I'm so pleased. Exactly. 5. Quand Emma était petite, elle, and then the second bit. Oui, jouait du piano. She used to play piano, but at the age of 15, something happened. Do you think stopping is a continuous action, or she stopped as a one-off thing, or you think she was stopping for a bit, or at the age exactly? Do you see that? I don't know if this is why I do this today, because it's a concept that even if students kind of like, yeah, then exactly. You're saying, well, when she was little, but okay. Right. It was the end. Okay. However, remember that the time phrases help you massively. And at the age of 15, it's very specific. Chances are, not 100%, but chances are that's going to be a passé composé, because it's like at this particular point, she stopped. Well, numéro 6. Again, this is telling you. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly, because it's like we used to, go on holidays to Brittany. Une fois, one day or once. Exactly, because it happened une fois, once. It's a one-off, once. It's telling you une fois, not happening. Exactly. Okay, I'm quite pleased. I'm actually very pleased. Well done. Because actually, the only one you were not saying, apart from the beginning, until I made it more clear, is like just because you didn't know the word, not because you didn't know the concept. And so a word is a word. That's fine. You can learn it anytime. So really, really good. Any questions? So that's it. Not tomorrow, next Thursday, I will be doing listening. That's what we'll do, listening next Thursday, same time. See you then. Au revoir. Au revoir.